Yo, what's your boy Ghost here, and today I'm bringing you guys another comparison video between the Mac-10 and Owen gun. And the reason I wanted to make a comparison, because surprisingly, in the Season 4 update, they ended up actually buffing the Mac-10, a gun which I never would have thought would have ever gotten some sort of change, unless it was a nerf any time in this current state of Warzone. It's actually very surprising that in this update they went back to a lot of like weapons that you didn't think were gonna get like just tweaked at all, and then they ended up tweaking them. Mac-10 being an example. And you know, I came here to see if with the newly nerfed Owen gun, is the Mac-10 a viable option for the next meta. Valid question, because the Mac-10 even before this update was pretty good. I would say it's always has been good, and for it to get better just makes the case even stronger. But before we do get into the comparison, I want to say, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 3,000. We just hit 2.04k, so we're getting closer and closer every day. And the support that I've gotten recently, man, has been crazy. So thank you guys for all of that, man. We've been killing it. I gotta say, man, I know people won't care for this, but this past month, or I guess this June month hasn't even finished yet, has been the best month aside from like subscribers I've ever had on YouTube. So thank you guys very much. Very appreciated. We're gonna keep grinding, bro, because you know we're not stopping yet. But yeah, man, with that being said, let's get into the comparison. And here we have the recoil pattern for the Mac-10, which, as you guys can see, nothing too crazy. Now, this gun has been a pretty reliable range weapon for quite some time, ever since this came out. For me personally, this is one of my favorite SMGs to use at range. And since I'm a very avid user of SMGs at round range for whatever reason, like anytime an SMG is able to be used like really far range or just in a substitute for AR in certain situations, I'm a very big fan of, and the Mac-10 is no different. I love the Mac-10's ability to just beat people from a long distance. It's one of my favorite things to do, just to get that satisfying down from a long range with the Mac-10, because it's just like, this gun is supposed to be shooting like that, but yeah, here I am expanding its limits. That's just for me though. A lot of people may not like it, don't care, because at the end of the day, these are the SMGs. Like, you know, you expect these guns to be good for close range, not long range, and this gun is still really good. And especially with this buff, which we're getting to right now, for the minimum damage, it went up from 20, or it went up to 20 from 19. The headshot damage multiplier went up from 1.33 from 1.3, and then the max damage range was increased from 15.6 or to 15.6 from 14.7. Now, these little numbers may not seem like a lot, but I'm gonna just rewind back to the XM4. The XM4 ended up getting similar changes like these, specific, like actually the exact same changes, headshot multiplier and damage increase, and they were only by a little bit. But those little bit, or that little bit of increase, allowed for it to be really like just way better than what it was. They actually had to ended up nerfing it again to the original state, because it was just like ridiculous how good it got after that slight changes. Now, I'm not saying that the Mac-10 feels anything like that. The Mac-10 still feels pretty solid, and to be honest, you know, like at the end of the day, this gun wasn't really like that powerful to begin with, so I think the change isn't as noticeable as the XM4 one. But any little bit of damage does help, especially with the headshots. And I mean, hey, there's some of these clips, bro, absolutely frying. And for me, like, just throughout the whole day I was using Mac-10, like, I could generally say I've had a lot of fun. For me personally, it's probably like my go-to at the moment. But switching over to the Owen gun's nerf, because I didn't actually talk about this in my last video, I kind of just like said we'll skip over it. But this is one of the biggest changes. This is what significantly impacted the Owen gun, and this one has felt very noticeable, which the upper torso damage was increased, or the multiplier was decreased from 45% to 25%, which is a huge change. Because if you guys don't know, like, the Owen gun is one really powerful weapon, like statistically, and especially like in the area that I got nerfed, the upper torso. And I mean, it's definitely noticeable. It's one of those changes where it's like, damn. And then guns like the Mac-10 getting, you know, buffed, and other guns getting put into the mix, like, it's just definitely showed that the Owen gun right now is very vulnerable, and there's a lot of weapons right now that a lot of people are picking over the Owen gun, which is very understandably, because, like, you know, it got nerfed significantly. And also, the shrouded barrel got nerfed, which is the barrel that I used, or not nerfed actually. Let me rewind. It got like just adjusted. Like, the max damage was increased, the max damage range was increased, the multipliers were decreased, the lower extremity damage multiplier was decreased, the vertical recoil control was decreased. So, I mean, I guess it was mostly like, I would say nerfed, but you know, there was a little buff in there. But you know, maybe that, you know, you could counteract this whole Owen gun thing with just running the rapid barrel. I haven't really tried it. I really don't care to, because I feel like at this point I've used the Owen gun for so long that I need to change it up. But you know, it's up to you guys. But regardless, man, we're just gonna get into the Owen gun and some the Owen gun and some stats. And they have the recoil pattern for the Owen gun, which, as you guys can see, not too crazy. Now, this gun again is also a pretty reliable long range weapon. I still probably pick the Mac-10 over it, But again, it all comes down to the fact that these two are SMGs, so it does not really matter if they're good at range or not. Because most people that are gonna watch this probably don't use the SMGs the way I do. Like I said, but SMGs, it's just, these are literally my secondary ARs, bro. Like, that's what I look for in SMG. Like, if any of them have any potential to, you know, get me kills at long range, and both of them do, and I use them as such way. But the first stat we're going to talk about is the fire rate. Now, this is probably going to be one of the most lopsided differences of fire rate that I've ever seen between two weapons, or that I've ever compared, because the Mac-10's fire rate, if you guys are not familiar with the stats, is a 1,118 RPM, whereas the Owen guns is only a 500. And yes, you can put fire rate attachments on the Owen gun and you can't with the Mac-10, but that does not matter because the difference of fire rate will not be come close, even when you do put all fire rate attachments on the Owen gun. And to put that in context on how fast the Mac-10 is, think of all the weapons that you use with really high fire rate. None of those weapons, they might come close, but they don't surpass statistically the fire rate of a Mac-10. So, for example, any of the PPSHs that you ever use, the Vanguard one, PPSH, those are around like 800 to 900. Which other gun, if I remember? Any of the like Vanguard ones don't really come closer for the PPSH. The Cold War ones, the most I remember from Cold War was like a 900, which was the PPSH. And then like the other two guns that I remember that had 1,000 that still didn't even surpass the Mac-10 was the CX-9 and the Fennec. And those two weapons aren't really used, even though like the Fennec's actually pretty good in my opinion. The CX-9 is a little bit iffy, but like those are the two other SMGs that I remember off the top of my head that have a 1,000 RPM and still don't surpass the Mac-10. But the thing about the Mac-10 is it has a 1,000 RPM, but as like I mentioned with the Fennec and CX-9, like those two compared to the Mac-10 are completely different. Like the Mac-10 got 53 rounds, the damage is pretty solid, there's no recoil, like the glitch just goes on and on and on, and it's like, bro, what the hell? But anyway, speaking of the damage, for 0 to 15.6 meters for the Mac-10, you got 29 damage to the head, 22 to the neck, chest, stomach, and then 19 to the extremities. So again, like I mentioned, the Mac-10 doesn't really have that much of damage. It's just the fire rate that makes it stupidly good. Whereas for 0 to 15.2 meters for the Owen gun, you got 56 damage to the head and neck, 48 to the chest, 39 to the stomach, 39 to the upper leg and arm, and then 35 to the lower leg and arm. So like obviously, bro, the Owen gun has a complete difference in damage to the Mac-10, but it's like the fire rate is just that much more different that it really does not matter, because the Mac-10 can definitely beat the Owen gun in engagements just solely off the fact that it's literally like 2 times faster, which is just ridiculous. But moving over to the longer ranges, for 15.6 meters and above the Mac-10, you got 26 damage to the head, 20 to the neck, chest, and stomach, and then 18 to the extremities. For 15.2 to 19.7 meters for the Owen gun, 47 damage to the head and neck, 41 to the chest, 33 to the stomach, upper leg and arm, and then 29 to the lower leg and arm. For 19.7 meters and above for the Owen gun, you got 34 damage to the head and neck, 30 to the chest, 24 to the stomach, 24 to the upper leg and arm, and then 21 to the lower leg and arm. So again, no matter what the range is, the Owen gun does have a damage advantage, but like I said, bro, at the end of the day, 1,118 RPM. And that's why like the Mac-10 has always been a solid weapon. That's why throughout Cold War, even after it got constantly nerfed, it was still like always there. It's just, man, that fire rate is so fast that that solely wins at the gunfights, which is just crazy to think about. And again, it just got buffs a little bit, so it got a little bit more powerful, added on to the fact that it already shoots really fast with the ability to control it really easily. And so I'm actually really curious to see if they ever revert this. I don't think the Mac-10 necessarily requires that, because it doesn't feel really, really broken. Like, I mean, if you guys remember, the day 1 Mac-10 from when it first came out, Season 1, I believe, of Cold War. Think about that. Like, that gun was shooting nukes, and it was the exact same Mac-10. So, like, bro, what were they thinking? Like, what were they thinking to give this gun a lot of damage with the fire rate that they gave it with 53 rounds? Because typically, like I said, the CX-9 and the Fennec, for example, has only 40 bullets as the max it can go to. If that gun had like 50, 60, that gun would be ridiculously overpowered. The CX-9, I don't necessarily remember how much it can hold. I think it was like 50, but that gun was a little bit it wasn't like the greatest. It was okay, but you know, and man, we'll have to wait and see what they decide to do with these guns. But in conclusion, I will say that the Mac-10 right now, I guess it's always been really like this, but it's definitely a contender for meta. I know for a fact right now that the Blixen right now is like the top tier gun that really everyone was using, and I don't blame anybody. But that gun, I'm expecting a nerf really, really soon, like maybe tomorrow type stuff. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But the Mac-10 though definitely is a really solid choice right now. I definitely would pick it over the Owen gun right now. It just feels way better right now for me personally. But that's just personal preference. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. As always though, thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.